Cheers, I do buckaroos. How the heck are you? I was cranking some Lucero as I hit the play button and the music stopped because I've got it connected to the same thing, you see. Anyways, what are you willing to lose was the tune playing. But anyway, this is my first maple old fashioned this season. So a friend sent me a recipe last year for a maple old fashioned. Basically, said rye or bourbon, maple syrup, and their recipe was black walnut bitters, which I did buy and enjoyed the hell out of them. But I want to try something a little different this season, and I picked up some cherry bitters, and I have used them in an old fashioned. I've also used them in a Manhattan. But here's the thing: I've got this really served more like a Manhattan because most people will serve their old fashioned on the rocks, but I'm kind of a straight up kind of guy. And here's the thing: to make this an old fashioned, it's the whiskey, the maple syrup in place of the simple syrup, and then your bitters. That's what makes it an old fashioned. You're just taking out the simple syrup. But here's the thing: a Manhattan is the whiskey, sweet vermouth, and bitters. What I'm swapping out the sweet vermouth for the maple syrup. So why couldn't I call this a maple Manhattan? Just saying. Anyways, so I did pick up this about last year about this time, but I've still got about this much left. And I have used this in several cocktails. I've used this on food too. It's really good, man. I put it on waffles, pancakes. Oh yeah, it's delicious. It is a little pricey, but the truth is it's not all that much more than pure maple syrup, which isn't cheap either. But this stuff, uh, this barrel aged stuff is just insane. Barrel aged maple syrup WhistlePig. It is a little pricey, I gotta say. It is a bit of a gimmick, but it really is good. So what I've got here is I've got 3 ounces. Let me turn my speaker off here. I've got 3 ounces of the whiskey. I've got a half ounce of the maple syrup. If you want it sweeter, by all means do your thing. I don't like my drinks all that sweet. So I've got about a half ounce, and I've got a few dashes of the cherry bitters in there. Because the reason I wanted to try, I really love those black walnut bitters because their aromatics are just incredible. But I thought with the cherry, it really would kind of harmonize with the maple, kind of a cherry maple kind of thing going on. Oh, that is delicious, man. And I might lean more towards calling this Maple Manhattan. Again, just because how I have it served, right? I've got it served straight up as you would serve a Manhattan. And most of the friends I know, most people I know that drink an old fashioned, prefer it on the rocks. And I make mine probably, I'm going to say about 70% straight up like this as well. I don't really always like that ice in there. I typically only use that ice during the summertime. Otherwise, I like it served just like this. So with the way I have it served, it really just it looks more like a Manhattan. Because the vermouth adds some sweetness, but also I just a hint of tartness to kind of balances the whiskey, which is why I wanted to make sure I did use a nice rye like this, so it wouldn't be overly sweet. I think a bourbon is fine. I really do. I wouldn't use a wheated bourbon because I think it's going to be a little too sweet. Wheated bourbons tend to be a little sweeter. For me, anyway. But the mash bill on this is insane. It is 95% rye. Yeah, I shit you not. I mean, it is rye, man. It is rye through and through. 95% rye, 5% malted barley. It is just, it's insane, man. It's really good. Their bourbon is crazy good too. I got to tell you that bourbon, the mash bill on the bourbon, I love as well. The mash bill on the bourbon is 70% corn, 21% rye, 9% malted barley. Believe it or not, that is a pretty good amount of barley when most commercial whiskeys are only using 4 or 5%. But because this is my first one of the season, I really wanted to do a good quality rye with this beautiful maple syrup. Because when I made it first last year, I had the WhistlePig piggyback rye, that 6-year-old rye. which was brilliant because I had wanted to do the WhistlePig whiskey with the whistle, but I haven't bought. So I had that bottle. Probably the bottle probably lasted me about 6 months, but I haven't bought a new one yet this season. It's probably about that time of year I need to go pick up another piggyback. I keep looking at the 10 and 12, and I may at some point pull the trigger. But you know, I'm a working class guy. That's a lot of cash for me, right? That's a lot of cash, man. That's a lot of cheddar, baby. Anyway, so yeah. I love good whiskey, but I also enjoy a bargain. Excuse me. This Wheel Horse Rye, as amazing as it is, was only $28 a bottle, if you can believe it. Got some neighbors going by in a golf cart there. Anyway, that's why I kind of like sitting out here, because you never know what you're going to run into, right? I never know what I'm going to run into. See, some folks, they always get a hoot for me having a beer, or in this case, a cocktail. But the first maple of the season, baby. The first maple of the season. Probably need to get some more syrup. I don't know if this is going to last me through the winter. It's not gonna, man. It probably won't even last me through November. Yeah, the truth is, I have used this in a lot of cocktails. I really have. But yeah, I mean, I've used it on pancakes, waffles. It really is good. I've used it on. I've made Johnny cakes. Oh, it's beautiful on Johnny cakes. I gotta tell you. Cornmeal pancakes. I've used it on just cornbread too. A little butter, a little bit of this. Oh, that cornbread soaks it right up, baby. It's dessert, man. It really is. I mean, I've had that for dessert some nights. We've had extra cornbread. Yeah. Oh my God. Little butter. And I mean butter. I mean butter. I know. I don't mean margarine. I mean actual freaking butter. You gotta use real butter, man. Butter. If you're using maple syrup, that's good. You better be using real butter. Anyway, I digress. All this stuff is insane. It is incredible, because you do feel some of those barrel notes in there, right? You get the sweetness of the maple, but you also get those barrel notes, and it really takes it to a whole other place. Sometimes you get some bugs flying around, the hazards of drinking outside. But I love my little window to the world here, right? I'm in my pub. I'm inside the garage. I'm not out. I'm inside the garage. But I still see things going on. Little gnat going around. Oh, mercy. We had a granddaughter last night for a sleepover. Just dropped her off a little bit ago. Thought we might have her a little longer. Actually, God, that little thing just came out of nowhere. I can't get rid of it. Oh. But yeah, we just dropped her off a little bit ago. It's always fun having her. She's an absolute joy. She really is. Yeah. Sometimes the thing is, sometimes she'll go into these. I won't say rants because they're not angry. They're more happy. But she'll go into these little diatribes every once in a while about certain things, and it reminds me just of her mother. I mean, even the words she uses, the phrasing, you know, the animation of her face. I said, "Oh my gosh!" I'm like having a feeling of deja vu, just like listening to my daughter at that age. So, oh my gosh! Sometimes my wife and I will just look at each other and go, "Oh my gosh!" It's like we flashed back 25 years or so. Yeah, it's something. Anyway, the grandkids are great. The granddaughter likes the sleepovers more so than the grandson. He does have some from time to time, but she appreciates the sleepovers a little more. He's really into that gaming thing, and we just don't do that here. So there's not as much for him to do over here as at home. And we encourage kind of other things. We let her, play on her phone for a little bit, but my wife would say, okay, screen time down, and now you read a book or play a game or do some art or whatever. And she didn't argue. She read a book for a while and went back. She never fussed. She likes eating over a Grammy and Grampy. She really does like eating over here. Because Grampy feeds her well, man. And that kid can eat. She's tiny, but boy, she can eat. Because for the wife and I, if I do scrambled eggs, I'll do sometimes 3 or 4 at the very max. But I usually just do 2 or 3. uh, for the wife and I. But if she's here, I mean, this morning I had to do 6 scrambled eggs. She wanted cheesy eggs, so I had to do 6 scrambled eggs, and I gave her about half of what I had fixed. Gave the wife and I the rest of them. She ate all of hers and asked for more eggs. I said, I dished them all up, baby. I mean, she ate at least three eggs, man. Plus the bacon and and everything else, man. That kid can eat. And she wanted fried potatoes, so I did some fried potatoes too, and she ate all of them. The only thing she didn't eat all of was a sausage. She wasn't crazy about the sausage, and that was fine because she ate a lot. Man, she ate a lot. My first Maple Manhattan of the season. So anyway, I did run this a little bit longer because I do what I do. You know, I talk about other things. You know, sometimes I lose focus. No, but that's why I call my videos At the Pub With. I'm not necessarily doing a review, although I will talk about the products. But I do enjoy this Maple Manhattan. I tell you, there is some differences using the cherry bitters as opposed to the black walnut. The black walnut really does kind of changes the aromatics completely, and it really works well. It balances well with the maple syrup, but the cherry plays very well with the maple as well. So again, my thoughts are, or my advice to you is, you know, recipes of any kind aren't handed down from God to Moses on stone tablets. You can tweak them up, and that's kind of what I've done here. Is I've taken an idea and I've kind of changed it around a little bit. And don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to try different bitters. I mean, there's a lot of different bitters on the market. Those black walnut are absolutely insane. I love them. But I wanted to try these cherry bitters, and they're enjoyable as well. Of course, I always keep the traditional Angostura on hand, and I like to have orange bitters too, because for a classic old-fashioned, they're perfect. But yeah, don't be afraid to try other things. Make it up as you go, man. Hey, man, what's life without a little whimsy? I am Tom the Whiskey Whisperer, Whiskey Evangelist, prolific whiskey drinker, purveyor of wisdom, man. All right, good guy. Cheers, guys. Have a good